In order to give this interview some context, this is the second interview on this channel and the first time I interviewed the Old School Coder. We had both submitted entries to Shalon 50K's Commodore 64 May 2021 competition and discussed the results among other things. First thing I wanted to ask was, for this challenge, did you use what was your development environment?
VS Code and Kick.
Oh, you were using VS Code. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
VS Code and Kick.
Is that what you used for the Spiral Challenge as well? In the last couple challenges?
No, I used CVM for the Spiral Challenge.
Oh, you did. Okay. And then what was the name of the challenge that he held the last time for the 64? That weird one.
Oh, the Kaleidoscope.
The Kaleidoscope. Yeah. What did you use for that one?
VS Code.
Okay. Okay. But
the only reason I use VS Code is because CPS. I really want to play with the latest beta, and the last beta had a few issues with it. That's why I've not used it a lot. But we've just had the next beta come, so hopefully it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah, no, I saw
that.
That's the only
reason I use VS Code. I mean, I use VS Code because I'm trying to appeal to the Linux people as well, because VS Code works on that with Kick. But my heart is still with CPS.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the go-to. I mean, I would use CPS for all sprites designing and character designing. But until we get the char map development in there, we've still got to use Charpad to do all the screen mapping.
No, I'm the same way. I kind of learned how to do the ASM on the CPS, and I've been slowly learning the the Kick assembler, and you've been using the same editor that Shalon's using.
The Sublime Text.
Yeah, the Sublime Text, and I like it. But I do like VS Code as well. I use it. We used it for Pygame, and it works well for all kinds of different programs. But,
yeah.
When you did the Spiral Challenge, because you had told me that on this current one you're working on, or at least in your source code, it said you had 8 different versions.
Yeah.
Did you have a bunch of versions on your last couple of entries too?
The Kaleidoscope, hang on, let's open that up. The Kaleidoscope one, you're going to laugh at this. There's 13 different versions and I said last.
Yeah, no. The main reason, and you might laugh at this, but the main reason why I didn't participate on that one is I didn't fully understand, and I didn't want to take the time to worry about it. It just was too complicated, I guess, for me. So I didn't even try to participate on that one. And I was the same way with the Spiral Challenge. I had like at least 7 or 8, if not 10 entries, not entries, but different versions. Yeah,
well, the Spiral Challenge was, for me, was easy. I mean, I only had 2 versions.
Oh yeah, no, but I had a couple of approaches. I was writing it in BASIC, and then I was trying a couple of different ways of doing it and seeing which way could be adapted into assembly language to make it smaller.
Yeah, I mean the Spiral, I did inline code modification, and I don't know if you know what that means, right? So because it was going plus and minus on the Y and plus and minus on the X and plus and minus on the Y, I thought we could inline change the code. So change the clear carries to set carries, change the add with carry to subtract with carry. And you can do that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bytes, yeah? So you load the point, you XOR it, and then you save it, which flips between the two. But the problem was that there was too many JSRs, too many jumps. You know, I'm a structured programmer, so I like to fragment everything down into something manageable. But when I was struggling, trying to get the cycle count down, then I went dirty. And the second one is just basically doing that. Literally, it goes round as one point rather than doing 2 lines at a time and then working your way around.
Oh, right. And that was, I think, that's kind of what the best solutions, how their algorithm worked as well. So I think that was the right way to go. But I did find it very interesting. Some of the other solutions, Enduron's solution, I think, for in basic was so small, like 2 or 3 lines. Like it blew me away.
Yes, it was very compact. That was very compact. Very clever how he'd managed to nest all the 4 next loops so that they were still in the same level. There was no jumping out, because you couldn't have been able to do that in the lines of code that he did. But it was very compact. I thought it was very clever.
Yeah, and then going on to the May challenge, I know you and I kind of competed against each other for a little while. We were going back and forth, and then of course
you was beating me. You was beating me at one point.
But then finally you pulled ahead, and I stopped. I said, okay, I can't go any further, and I just pulled off the race, I guess. But anyway, that was fun, and there was a few realizations that I had when I looked at everyone else's code. And it just hit me like, oh, why didn't I? Whoa, yeah. Like, for example, the index, like adding 40, you could just use X register starting at 0, and you could add 40 for each row. I was thinking, I immediately disregarded that because I said 40 times 8 is 320. That's going to be greater than 255. That's going to be a hassle. So I threw it out and never looked back. You know, but I didn't realize until I saw everyone else was doing it that way. Oh, wow, I just added at least 40 bytes to my code probably, or something like that because of that. But and then
well, I didn't have the X plus 41 because I think it was version 5 I did that, but the problem was it increased the number of bytes, and what I was trying to do was my next evolution was supposed to be smaller, but it went bigger, and the cycles I think doubled because of it, and so I went back to the matching pairs where I got the screen location and the shadow location mirroring each other, just with an offset of 41. So and that's how I got. I mean. My philosophy is that you get it built. Do it as you would normally do it. Get it built. You know, see what you've done. Now, my first is completely structured. Right? It's got JSRs to get the byte. It's got JSRs to display the byte. It's got JSRs to work out which bit is set and which bit's not set. You know, 20,000 cycles. You know, 100 and. 200 and some bytes, I think it was. And that's when you start, that's where you have to start looking at it and say, right, how can I make this? But the thing is, for me, undocumented opcodes, I don't even consider because the how can I put this? The unpredictable. They can not work sometimes. I know some of them do, but I'm a purist, so I mean, some of the solutions for the main one, I mean, they're really, really clever.
Yeah.
Really clever. I mean, the one that won is constantly switching in and out the character row.
Yeah, I noticed. I
did it all in one go.
Yeah, I noticed that almost all the solutions were constantly switching out the character ROM and grabbing just the byte they need, and then doing the work with it, and then looping through it, which was, when you think about it, fewer cycles and, in some cases, it was more succinct and shorter bytes. But so what I noticed, most of the solutions, they would draw the solution, they would draw on the first character going across, they'd draw that first line and then add 40, draw the second line, then go to the next character, it would draw the first row, all 3 characters, and then draw the shadow. I think that's what it did. or do them simultaneously, and then go to the next line and do the same thing over and over to finish the algorithm. But I noticed on mine I was adding 10. So to start to the next character, I would add 10 because it was 10 bytes over, or it was 10 characters over, and then add 10 to go to the third character. But I noticed a few of the solutions were already pre-calculated those and saved that in a little table, which was genius. It was genius, right? I hadn't even thought of that. And then a few of the solutions, they did the ASL on the address 1 instead of LDA STA. And then they would ROL it back, or shift it left, shift it right to put it back to where it was, which I would have never thought of, And then one of the solutions, they didn't have the RTS at the end. They had that embedded in the program code on one of the tables, so that.
Yes.
And then and then finally, and I don't mean to keep harping on this whole program, but the final thing that I noticed was. Almost all the solutions, if not all of them, except for mine, it already assumed that the character color black was already on the screen because of the submission. I didn't realize that until I saw everyone else's submissions. I was like, oh, I didn't need to specifically say LDA 0 STA the color wrong. You know what I mean? And so
that was version 2 when I reflected mine.
Because
on version 2, my algorithm for working out the color address was wrong. And when I looked at it, I thought, hang on, everything's black. Oh, right, I don't need to set black, right?
Yeah, because I was doing mine outside of the submission program. I was doing it all to be its own separate program. And mine actually, when you run it, it returns back. None of your guys's returns back, and you can actually run it again. Yours all of your guys' entries crash. Why does your program crash when you run it by itself? Do you know?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
It doesn't return
I don't run it by itself. I run it inside.
You run it inside the submission program, right? That Shalom provided?
Yeah.
Okay.
So every time I compile it, I'm compiling Shalom's submission program.
See, well, you had to submit it without the submission program. You submitted a PRG.
Yes.
That PRG crashes. All of submissions crashes.
Yes, because they're not meant to be ran. They're not meant to be run in isolation. They're meant to be run in Shalom's submission program.
And that's true. That's true. And I also noticed a couple of submissions. It's right off the bat they start doing an INY. So they already making the assumption that the Y register is clear. And some things like that because of Shalom's program that I did not even consider when I did it. So those are a lot of little tips and stuff that people could probably use for their own.
That was. I mean, except for the color run, which completely forgot about, is that you check the state of the registers when he hands it over to you. See what state the register is in.
And then just increment the color value by 1 to get white.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another little tip that saves a few bytes. So
yeah, you've got to remember that some of the opcodes will affect memory directly. You don't have to do a load and store and stuff like that. So ink affects it directly. So you can just get do an ink on it. But when I was looking at the cycle counter, ink 0 page seems to be really heavy rather than just doing a load, absolute, and store 0 page. Because I was looking at the cycle counts. That's why I didn't use 0 page when I stored the character. I used the stack. Because the stack was actually 1 cycle less to push than storing it in 0 page, and it was 3 cycles to read, which I was astounded at. I think it's 3 cycles.
Oh, okay.
Which was a lot less than the load. That's why I used the stack. I pushed all 3 characters onto the stack and then just brought the bytes back as I wanted them.
Oh, okay. Did you happen to take a gander at Carl Hendrick's blog post that he did on this challenge?
Not ready yet. Not ready yet.
I keep saying it's just Henrik, not Hendrick. But
No, not
No,
really yet.
his blog post is awesome. I mean, it just details everything, like almost anything you could think of as it relates to this challenge, and all his thinking, his mindset for it and everything. It was really neat. It's a really good post.
Yeah, I'm going to have a look at it in a bit to understand how he did. Because I read his last one on the kaleidoscope, which was really, really clever the way
I don't know what
the way he'd come to the solution.
I'm not sure what assembler he's using, but some of the references in the source code I don't really understand on Carl's code. But
Some of them are using TAS, aren't they? TAS.
it has a .s extension on
Yeah,
the source.
or you could be using Acme.
But anyway, that was kind of all I wanted to talk about as far as the challenge, and then I wanted to ask you about your future content for Twitch and YouTube and stuff. Or what, because you've seemed to have been focusing on BBC Micro and reverse engineering and stuff. I was wondering when you're going to get back to the 64.
Oh, I mean, I'll go. So the reason I'm doing these is because no one is doing content for the B. It's still a 6502 machine. It was still a pivotal in the UK anyway. It was still a pivotal machine back in the 80s for the UK for school children to play on. And I thought that it would be a great 6502 based machine to learn its architecture and see what we can do with it. But getting back to the 64, well, I'll be going back to the 64. We've got the Hunchback to do, which is the one that I've been trying to get off the ground for a while. There's a word processor that's going to be done, which is another program I wrote as a child for the VIC-20, but I'm going to do it for the 64 and the other Commodore machine. So we're going to do a similar thing to Pepsi Matrix, where one source code could be assembled on all the Commodore machines. So the 64 is still going to be there. The reverse engineering is an interesting one to understand how people did the coding for any sort of game. I mean, we reverse engineered Grid Runner, which was a completely different style to reverse engineering the Myriad program. Completely different style, but it's interesting to see how they solved the issues at that time to make the game work. And all those things that you learn when you reverse engineer, you've been applying games that happen now. And that's the only reason I'm doing the reverse engineering, and also I get challenged every now and then. So I got challenged for that, saying it couldn't be done.
I get it. For the BBC, was the programming? I'm sorry. I didn't catch those streams. Let's put it that way. But is the BBC sort of similar to the 64, being that it's 6502?
Yeah, it's 6502 based, but it's clocked at 2 meg. So it's double the speed of the Commodore 64, right?
Oh, wow.
So it runs a lot faster. And also, in my opinion, it has the best 8-bit basic language of any 8-bit machine. In my opinion, I mean, the Commodore, it's a shame that the Commodore didn't have the same sort of basic language, because the basic language for the BBC was far more advanced. You could do far more with it, and it had concepts of structured programming in it, where you could write procedures, have local variables inside those procedures as well as global variables. So, and that's the only reason that the BBC has a place in my heart. One, because I learned to program at school on it when I was doing my A-level, and two, it was British. Side for one, for a bit, and looking at a different architecture and learning how to how to build whatever we want on that architecture. And that's the only reason that the BBC is making an appearance, because I don't see anything out there that is doing the same sort of thing.
Okay.
You know, we've got Shalimon Mega 65, which I think is brilliant, the Mega 65, and I can't wait to get me mix over the card so I can play with it.
Got to win a competition. To get you, if you win a competition, you could get a free card.
I tried my best this time, and I still came third from last.
Hey,
Come on.
hey,
Supposed
you see where I showed up in the list.
Mate, to be honest, mate, you only just scraped over the million mark.
Oh, what did you think about the fact that at the top the scores were so close?
Yes,
It might have randomly it could have been second, could have been first, or third could have been second, or whatever.
yeah,
So if he had used the same characters, if he had kind of
yes,
just used the same characters for all the results, he could have got a true test instead of being random. But
yeah.
I was thinking
But
about that.
at least the randomization was the same for every entry. So there was no, because that was one of the concerns of one of the coders was that one person could have like three W's, yeah, which it would take longer to render than say three I's.
Yeah, right.
And that's why Shalom said he was going to randomize the seed, and so he was going to use the same seed for all entries, which meant that all three runs were going to produce the same characters. And that, I think, was a much fair representation of the person's code. And the fact we could compare, the ECB three characters for all of them and see that even on so a couple of entries were only like 100 cycles apart, which was incredible in sort of they coded it completely different. And
Yeah.
it's just, what if we took the best bits of both? Could we get an even smaller execution cycles? It would be interesting to see if we could take the best bits of all of them and see if we can make something that truly is the most optimal way of doing it.
And then I only had one more question, and I don't want to keep you much longer. The I know you're working with Arthur Jordison on the CPS, and I know he just released the 8
The
beta version. But do you think we'll be seeing a kick version, or what do you think the future is holding, or how, what's going on with the project? Are you keeping in touch with them and everything, and are you still helping them?
Yeah. The kick one hopefully is going to be coming out. See, we've been trying to fix some of the issues that were in the last release, that were concerning, that caused people a lot of. It sort of gave the software a little bit, tarnished the software a little bit, and so trying to replicate the issues and then try and fix them, and that's what he's concentrated on. The kick version is still there. And also, we've started putting the Mega 65 in it as well. So we got the basic in the last beta, I think it was. And so we are trying to, the software is trying to keep up with what's going on. But when there's only one or two people on it, working on it, it can be difficult. But the kit version is still there. We've still got the project. I've worked on the error catching routine so when Kit kicks out an error system, it converts it back into the CPS error routine so we can see which lines are errored and stuff like that. So I've worked on that. Arthur's worked on the integration of Kick into the software. All we need to do is put all the syntax checking into the IDE. So when you're in Kick mode, it will colorize in Kick instead of his own assembler. And then we've got to do a bit of a conversion on the export functions of all the character set, the sprite editor, the screen editor. So we can when it comes to assembling it, we have to do a lot of pre-processing to take those screens, take those sprites, take those characters, and put it in a form that then Kit can understand to then assemble the whole lot in one go. So there are a couple of the issues that are currently in there, is that we've got to make the pre-build of the assembler do it differently than the pre-build of his assembler to make it Kit compliant. But version 4, which is what we're hopefully going to call it, we're hoping to get it out hopefully sometime this year, but it will hopefully will have Mega 65 in it as well.
Okay.
Because we've put the basic interpreter in, and it produces the PRGs. That was the last beta that I've been playing with. We just need to make it do the assembly as well. But only Kick is doing that at the moment. So, and that's why we need to focus on getting the Kick version out as well.
Okay. Well, thanks you very much, OldskoolCoder, and for taking the time to do this this interview.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot. I'll let you go. Have a good rest of your holiday.
All right. Cheers, mate.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right.